Welcome to the Jazz Notes Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
It is May 20th. We are a week from the last podcast. We are 8 days removed from the draft lottery, though that feels like it was an eternity ago.
Yes.
And we've moved on to this new stage, I think, of paying attention to the draft, where I know last week a lot of Jazz fans were grieving and were furious on Tuesday, and I think you've probably come around a little bit more and recognized, there's still good players in this draft.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about two of them coming up today in the show. We're going to talk about Trey Johnson, the guard from Texas. We're going to talk about Knueppel, the guard from Duke. We're also going to get into some other weekly news, and then we'll get into your mailbag question as always. Find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops, at Holt Sports. Read us at KSLSports.com. You can also find us at Blue Sky. So the best way to get in touch with us, but actually kind of a weird amount of news that has come out this week with the Combine wrapped up, and we're getting ready for the rest of the summer.
Yes. First bit of news came out shortly after our podcast last week. Carlos Boozer is expected to join the Jazz as a scout, although it just seems some type of front office role.
Yeah, Michael Scotto from Hoops Hype originally reported it that it was a scouting role. Sarah Todd at the Des News said it's kind of more of just a whatever. Yeah, front office role is not fully defined yet.
Yeah.
But, you've seen guys hang around Avery Bradley and then turns into a job. Boozer's going to be around in some fashion, which cool. Are you taking Carlos Boozer's like hardcore basketball thoughts? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, both of his sons are in the draft next year, probably. At least Cam will be. Caden, we'll see how he plays at Duke next season. But Cam is one of the greatest high school basketball players in recent memory. Better high school basketball player than A.J. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson. That doesn't mean he's going to be the best pro.
Yes.
But he's been one of the most decorated players of all time at that level. So him coming in the draft, Boozer having been in AAU circles, been around all these kids for 5, 6, 7 years, he can probably give the Jazz some insight and have some knowledge. And you know what? Those players probably know him as well when you're in those elite circles of AAU basketball. And Boozer's been able to talk to him and has been one of the dads. Maybe there's something to learn there. So, and not bad if you end up with a third pick and Cam Boozer's on the board and you have to take him and you feel like, yeah, my dad works for the team. That's cool. And he played there.
Yeah. I was going to say interesting timing with Cam Boozer expected to be one of those top 3 guys.
Yep.
In the
Not a
draft
coincidence.
Yeah. So. Next, news that came out about 5-10 minutes before we're recording this, a few hours by the time you guys see this. No Jazz rookies made the all-rookie teams.
I was surprised at that. I thought both Kyle Filipowski and Isaiah Collier had a good shot at it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a good draft year by any means. But your first team is Steph Castle, Reza Shea, Jalen Wells, Zach Edey, Alex Sarr. That's probably what should have been expected. The second team was Modest Buzelis, Bub Carrington, Donovan Clingan, Khalil Ware, and Yves Missy. If you wanted to put Isaiah Collier over Bub Carrington, I would have listened. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to put Flip over any of those players, I would have listened on the second team. But yeah, it's just not a crazy good draft class, which is why Collier and Filipowski had a chance in the first place. But I do think the Jazz probably should feel like they have at least one of the 10 best rookies out of this class.
Absolutely. I think that
I don't know who it's going to be, but I would bet Flip, but we'll see.
I think that Flip should have made it at least over Khalil Ware, Donovan Clingan, and Yves Missy. Like, those guys had solid rookie years, but I think that he had the highs and lows, of course. Started strong, had that little rough stretch in the middle, and then ended strong again. So maybe his stats don't reflect the highs that he reached, but regardless, 0 for 10 for Jazz with the rookies.
And that snaps a 2-year streak where the Jazz had back-to-back all-rookie team members, Walker Kessler 2 years ago, or I guess 3 years now, and of course Keontae George last year. Yeah. And then you would hope that whoever they pick at 5 is on it next year or 21 or whatever. Yeah. But we'll see. So I thought maybe that'd be 3 years in a row. It will not be for the Utah Jazz. You know what? I don't think a lot of people watch the Jazz. You at least saw Khalil Ware in the playoffs. Yes. And you should have had your votes in before that. But I don't blame people who weren't breaking down the game of Kyle Filipowski. Yes. That's just fine. Not a huge knock on anyone certainly, and maybe lights a fire under those guys going to the summer league. And I expect both of them to be there, which leads us into our next piece of news.
Yes, it was announced the Salt Lake City Summer League is coming back, which we already sort of knew by comments from the front office earlier. But with the Delta Center renovations, it was what's happening with that. And we find out it's going to be at the Huntsman Center. Just
like it was in 2017 with the Delta Center under renovation. This is a far more aggressive construction than what was even going on last time, I believe. So, it definitely is.
Yes.
Because they're putting in a hockey. They're making it a hockey arena as well. It will be up at the Huntsman Center coming up on July 5th, 7th, and 8th. Usually they used to do it like the 3rd, the 5th, and the 6th. So it's actually after the 4th of July now, and they have that second day off on the 6th. But, fine. And then the Vegas Summer League begins July 10th.
Yes.
Or, July 10th.
Yeah, 10th to the 20th, I believe.
Yep.
And then...
Memphis Grizzlies, Oklahoma City Thunder, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Jazz. So 2 top 5 picks.
Yeah.
76ers have the 3rd overall pick. Jazz have the 5th pick. So most likely to see those 2 guys going at it.
And then one more piece of news. We're going to talk about it in the mailbag, though, but just teasing that the Philadelphia 76ers have their eyes on Lauri Markkanen. But
at least that's the rumor from ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN sources rumors, of course. All right. Should we get into our draft profiles?
Yeah, let's do it. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Trey Johnson? Or you want to start with Colin Knueppel? I
say we start with Con.
Okay.
So we talked about Con a little bit a few weeks ago, but we said if the Jazz land at 5th, we'll talk about it a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do. Con is a 6'7", 6'10" wingspan, averaged 14.4 points, 4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 48% from the floor, 40% from 3. Sharpshooter, in one word for Con.
Let's actually get his full measurements here because he didn't compete at the combine. He's got a rolled ankle. Okay. It happened at some point.
Yeah,
and his agent said he was only 85%, so he didn't do any of like the athletic testing, but he did do measurements. 6'5" barefoot, so a little bit shorter. 220. 6'6" and a half or 6'6" and a quarter wingspan, so he's kind of a little bit of dinosaur arms, and then 8.5 inch standing reach. So the physical profile from a height and wingspan measurement isn't like elite,
no,
but 6'5", he's almost 6'7" in shoes, 6'6" and a half, is not terrible by any means. He has a chance. He probably profiles as the best shooter in the draft. But let's break down what that actually means because there's a lot of different ways in which he shoots that I think are interesting. Catch and shoot, I do believe he's the best player in the draft.
Absolutely.
Like if he's open, that thing's going in.
Yes.
Coming off screens, he's got some of that as well. I think that's where he's interesting. He's not super efficient off the dribble in any sense of the word. So like if he's running pick and roll, which we need to get into in a minute and how good he is at running pick and roll. If you go under, he did not punish teams for going under and then like dribbling into the 3 and killing you. The way Jazz fans will remember, like that's where Joe Ingles became an NBA player.
Yes.
Was Joe could run pick and roll with Rudy Gobert at an elite level, and if you gave him any space, Joe was going to hit a 3.
Yeah.
And that was like, it was awesome. It was a great play. And then because Joe had such bad physical limitations, at least athletic limitations, you had to be up on him, and then he could drive past you off of a good screen, and then he was dangerous because he could kick out either direction. There is a ton of that in Colin Knueppel's game.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he is going to destroy teams as a pick and roll ball handler with a good screener. He did it with Common Malawash at Duke, but you put him with Walker Kessler and Walker's ability to catch lobs and how good he's done that, how well he's evolved into that type of player. A Colin Knueppel, Walker Kessler pick and roll is going to be an elite play for the Utah Jazz as long as he can start to hit some of those threes off the dribble. He just didn't take a whole lot at Duke. It was a low numbers, like 30 threes off the dribble, which like we'll talk about Trey Johnson in a minute. Like that's his bread and butter. That's what he does super well. Con does not do that super well at this level.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. He is almost entirely catch and shoot. I think that's the sort of thing that a lot of people are like, there's been a lot of talk, is he Dalton Connect? Is he a glorified Dalton Connect? And I just think that the differences there are striking. Yes, they're both shooters, and that's where they make their money and where they're going to make their money in the NBA. But I think that Con, both offensively and defensively, has so much of a higher IQ as, an 18, 19-year-old?
Yes.
So it's just going to only get better from here. So that's why he's talked about in like a top 5, if not top 8 sort of range.
40% from 3 overall, 43% on catch and shoot threes, 43% on guarded catch and shoot threes. So like it didn't matter if there was a hand in his face. 43% on unguarded catch and shoot. So it just didn't matter. But again, off the dribble, and this is from Red Coutier Lucas on Twitter. So I'm credit him for putting this graphic out. 14% on off the dribble threes. Now he only took 21. They played almost 40 games. That means he took 1 every other game, meaning like it wasn't something he even tried to do. Pick and roll ball handler 3-pointers, 2 of 15. So again, really low. That's where it's weird because he's such a good pick and roll player and such a good shooter. But off screen 3-point shooting, 38%. Free throws, 91%. Like just doesn't miss. At the rim, good 63%. Non-rim twos, 40%, which is good. That means even when he's pulling up in the mid range, he's effective.
Yeah.
True shooting percent 64%.
Wow.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
At 50 is where you're going to find a lot of guys. He's at 64%. So it's awesome. So the shooting, that's what the shooting is.
Yes.
We talked about the pick and roll. He's not going to like blow anyone away with his first step.
No.
But at 220, he's really strong. He's a bit of a bowling ball. he only needs 1 or 2 dribbles and he gets right into the middle of the floor. He can get to the free throw line and he's just going to kill you.
Yes.
Because he'll either take one more step and get to the paint where he's a pretty good finisher. He gets a little bit like pump fake happy sometimes. He's like, I'm not super athletic, so I'm not going to dunk on anyone, so I'm just going to pump fake.
Yes.
And then he still scores. That doesn't work as well in the NBA, to block your shot. But when he just goes up off of 1 foot, he's good. He's really good playing off of 2 feet as well. And he'll just work that out of his game. He'll just like be like, well, I just got to go up quicker. I can't wait and pump fake to get my shot off like I could in high school or college. He's just going to have to go up quicker than that.
Speaking on something you said, something that I was really impressed with is that whether it's on the 3-point line or when he finally gets inside, like you said, he's not very athletic, but a lot of times he'll use these shot fakes or even just like a pound dribble, take it to the side. He's crafty. Like he knows that he's not going to beat guys with his athleticism, but he uses his weight and his frame to his advantage a lot.
He's really strong.
Yes.
Like for a 19-year-old, I think he'll be 20 on draft night. Maybe he won't quite be there. He's freakishly strong.
Yeah. So I think that there is a lot of offensive upside. He's truly a shooting robot. Like if he gets into his actual motion, which is what, like you say, he's not taking like a lot of off dribble, fadeaway, stuff like that. Like when he gets set and shoots, it's automatic.
But he does not stop. He's got a crazy motor, so he's getting to those shots a lot. He's not just standing there and waiting for threes. When he's off the ball, even if he's on the weak side of the floor, like he's positioning himself to be open in a passing lane. Like he knows exactly where the ball is going to be and where he needs to be to receive that pass. And then when he catches it, he's already making the read of, do I shoot? Am I attacking a closeout? Am I passing? Like he totally gets it. He totally sees the game. His IQ is through the roof. His motor's great. His shooting's automatic. He's awesome. I know Jazz fans are a little like afraid of him right now. I'm telling you, he's an awesome player. Colin Knueppel's going to be a really good NBA player for a long time. I don't know if he's an all-star. I feel extraordinarily comfortable saying that as long as the team gets to the playoffs, and I don't mean the Jazz, any team that drafts him gets back to the playoffs, Colin Knueppel is like a playoff rotation top 6, top 7 guy, which look at the 4 teams left in the playoffs right now. They have 7 guys that they play. Like Colin Knueppel is in that group of players.
Yeah.
And if you care about winning, Colin Knueppel is a winner. Like you are going to win because Colin Knueppel's on your team. If you care about Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski, Walker Kessler, Taylor Hendricks, Cody Williams, like he's going to sprinkle fairy dust on all those guys and make them all better.
Yeah.
He's that type of player. Like he is going to make every single player around him better. And it's not just like off the ball stuff. Like I watched the Georgia Tech ACC tournament game where Cooper Flagg got hurt because I wanted to see what does Colin Knueppel do when he's not playing next to a guy who has a 30% usage rate in Cooper Flagg. And he's the best player on the floor by 1,000 miles.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane. And to the point where in the second half, Duke was down like 14, 16 in the first half of this game. Cooper Flagg goes out. Colin takes over. The second half, they just spam pick and roll with him over and over and over, and he just dices up Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech's not good, but he's just destroying these dudes off the dribble, threes, pick and roll. It just doesn't matter. They just have no answer for him. He's going through traffic. He's drawing fouls. He's finishing at the basket. And I watched a bunch of games of him, and it's just the more you watch him, the more you're just like, this dude wins. This dude's just going to win at such a high level in the NBA. He's awesome. If you got him at 5, like I know Jazz fans aren't going to be like throwing the parade, but 3 years down the line, they're going to be like, I can't believe we got Colin Knueppel on this roster. Yeah. He's truly awesome.
Something I wanted to say, the way that Oscar Tshiebwe treats rebounding like a science, I feel like Colin Knueppel treats shooting as a science. Okay. Like he has it down, and I feel like he knows. I would imagine he's the type of guy that knows the exact percentage he shoots from like 10 spots behind the 3-point line.
And everyone else on the team as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I think he knows everything about what everyone's doing.
Yes.
I think he knows where everyone's at their best. Like, when I say sprinkling fairy dust on the rest of the players around him, like, he's going to be like, well, I know where I can throw Walker the ball, and I know where I can throw Bryce Sensabaugh the ball. Like, you have Bryce Sensabaugh and Colin Knueppel on the perimeters, and all of a sudden you're an elite shooting backcourt. Like, and that's the thing I like about Colin actually a lot. I think he can play, like, your third-string point guard, where, like, Isaiah Collier's in foul trouble and somebody's hurt. Like, Colin's going to run the offense for you and be just fine and be 6'5", and all of a sudden he's a 6'5" point guard. And so some of his, like, measurement issues you're concerned about actually disappear. And then he can play threes. I think he's going to be able to guard some guys big, and we'll talk about his defense in a second. And then, you know, he kind of just projects as a natural 2-3. But, like, you could play him with Bryce Sensabaugh and be awesome. And you can also play him with Isaiah Collier. Or if you wanted to play him at point guard for long stretches, a la, like, Austin Reeves, he could step in and do that as well. So I'm a big Colin Knueppel fan. I think he's the real deal.
So we've talked about the athleticism question marks, and we've also talked about how he is very smart, and we talked about offensive, and he does have that defensive IQ as well.
Yeah.
where do you think he projects as an NBA defender?
You're trying to get him to be like a passable NBA defender.
Okay.
Because he's just not great athletically. He just has a short wingspan. He's not a great leaper. So that's going to hurt him. He's not ever going to be a lockdown guy. Like, that's out of the picture completely. He knows exactly where the defense is going. There is not, I watched probably 4 games. There is not I can't find a single possession where the controller turned off. Like we talk about, like he's off the ball, he's in the corner, 3-point shooter, he's not paying attention, they back cut him. I didn't see it a single time.
Yeah.
Like
never.
Watch a quarter of NBA basketball and every guard's going to get back cut. I didn't see a single one where he gets back cut and isn't either between the ball and his man or his man and the basket. And he shades in the right spots where he's like, I know I got to bring up pressure here because I know who's guarding him. I know it's, Tyrese Proctor is going to get beat, or whoever's Sion James is going to get beat off the dribble. Like, I've got to be over there to shade to make sure he can't come to this angle. Like, he knows exactly where to be on the court on both sides of the ball at all times. And even when he's on ball, like, he knows what you're going to do, so he's going to get in your way.
Yes.
He doesn't necessarily mean he's going to lock you down, but you're not ever just going to blow him off the dribble and be like, I got to lay up because Knueppel's on me and he's just toast and I'm going to target him every single time. NBA teams are going to challenge him, but he's going to get in the way. He is 220, like we said. He's really strong, so you're not going to just drive right through him or back him into the paint. So I actually like the defense a lot more than you would think from a guy who has short arms and is not super athletic. Like, he's just going to be in the right spot every single time. He's just always going to be spaced correctly. He's going to close out. And like I said, the motor is stupid. Like, the motor, VJ Edgecombe's motor's awesome. Cooper's motor's awesome. Knueppel's motor is as good as anybody in this draft. He just does not stop, and it's like multiple actions. There are a lot of guys who will guard one action, and they're like, well, I did my job. It's like he's chasing guys over screens. He's going to rebound. He's boxing out. He's tapping the ball. He's diving on the floor a lot. He's definitely dive on the floor guy. But he's saving basketballs out of bounds. Like, he's just a winner. It's just the easiest way to describe him. He's just a winning basketball player, and he's going to find ways to make an impact on the game on both sides of the floor. He's not going to be an elite defensive player, but he's going to find ways to make plays. And then offensively, I think his upside is absurd. I think he's just really going to be a really good player.
What I wrote here is that he's a really smart and even positive off-ball defender, but then the question marks come in when he's on the ball.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And I agree with you that he is going to get in the way. Like, I feel like even though he's not very fast, he's not very explosive, you would think with a player like that, he's just going to get first stepped all the way to the basket multiple times, but he's really good at cutting off. But I think when you're going against these ridiculously talented offensive players in the NBA, it's going to be a situation where maybe he does cut off that first move, but then he's going to get beat on that second move a lot of times.
Yep.
But I do agree with you. I think that he has that, we've said this name a lot, but that Joe Ingles effect where he's really smart on both ends, and that IQ is enough to make you at least average, passable, whatever you want to say.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah. I'm totally agree with you. I think, and then I just think he's going to get stronger. I think that's going to become a strength, and he's just going to be a very high-level player for a long time. He's relatively safe, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have upside too. Like, I think he's actually got real upside as well, because, again, when he wasn't deferring to Cooper Flagg, which, again, is actually a green flag. No, not to use flag twice. It's a green light, whatever you want to say. It's a positive sign. He recognized that Cooper Flagg was the better player on the team, and he let Cooper Flagg be the better player on the team. And the second Cooper Flagg was out, he said, I'm the best player on the team. I'm going to take over the game. Like, I watched the second half of the Georgia Tech game this morning. I'd watched the first half yesterday. If Cooper Flagg was not in college basketball, Cooper Flagg was never born. I think Knueppel was the ACC Player of the Year last year.
Wow.
And I think he's in the running for Player of the Year in college basketball. Like, I think he's that good.
Yeah.
Like, I think he would have had a freshman season. We would have been talking about Knueppel as a top 5 pick even without Cooper Flagg.
Okay.
I know some people would be like, well, he's playing off Cooper. And look, Duke's system is awesome. John Shire prepares guys for the NBA. They're running great stuff. He is being guarded by the second best player every time on the floor. Like, that's a plus. That's a huge advantage. But he's a great college basketball player.
Yeah. He's
really good.
All right. Anything else on Con?
I could keep going. No, we should move on. That's enough on Con.
Trey Johnson.
Okay.
We decided last week we were going to talk about Trey. There's a few names that we could have talked about in this range, but we decided on Trey because that has been like a recurring name for the Jazz at 5.
Yep.
And on top of that, his stock has seemingly been rising, even though it's hard to say he's rising because I feel like he's always been in the 5.
He's always been the top 5, top 6.
But it's just because the top 4 is so loaded, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been the biggest name for the Jazz. Let me look at his combine.
I've got it right here. 6'4" 3/4 barefoot,
which is awesome.
So he'll be right up around 6'6" when he's got shoes on, if not a little taller. 190 pounds. He's thin.
Yeah.
6'10" wingspan, 6'10" and a quarter, 8'5" standing reach, and also had a very good vertical leap. What was it, 37 and a half? Before we get too far into who he is as a player.
Yes.
If you look at his body, all of that makes sense.
Yes.
Right? Like you watch, his arms are down to his knees. Like he's got super lanky arms. The 37.5-inch vertical was really surprising.
I agree.
Because you never see it on the court.
He had 7 dunks all year.
Yeah, he had 3 in the half court.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I get measurements matter. Like if you are too small, if you're Jimmer Fredette, it just like, it can be disqualifying.
Yes.
You know? There's also the opposite where it's like, you love the measurements. Do I ever actually feel them? I never once thought that Trey Johnson was the best athlete on the floor in any game I watched. He was never the best athlete on the floor, much less one of the best athletes in the draft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I watched the Kentucky game. I watched a lot of his games. I'd have to go back and even look at which I watched the Oklahoma game. It's just like, he's never the best athlete on the floor. He's probably not the best athlete on his team, despite the fact that you look at 37.5-inch vertical, get like the best shuttle or whatever it was, the wingspan, like all those things would imply like, is this dude Donovan Mitchell? It's like he's going to dunk less than Isaiah Collier. He's going to dunk less than Keontae George. And those guys aren't like crazy leapers, athletes. Like Keontae George catches 4 or 5 lobs a year, maybe. Yeah. And like, I don't know if you're ever going to throw a lob to Trey Johnson. So if you're thinking, I looked at his numbers, I'm seeing an athlete here, I think you're going to be mistaken. Yeah. I don't think you're going to see a lot of that outside of transition. And even then, like, there were times when he had an open transition and could have dunked and like goes for the lay-in.
Yes.
Because he's not going to like easily finish on top of the rim.
I want to get into this a little bit more, specifically him using that athleticism.
Okay.
Because one of my major points I have here for him is questionable decision making, and specifically just like settling for jump shots on like almost every possession, if not every other possession. But he averaged 19.9 points, 3.1 rebounds, 2.7 assists, about 43% from the floor, 39.7% from 3, which is awesome, and then 87% from the line. He's a really good shooter, both with the ball in his hands, catch and shoot. I think especially with his size and his needing to grow as a playmaker, he'll probably slot in as a 2 in the NBA, especially with the Jazz, if they might run Collier or Sexton at the 1 and then have him at the 2. He shot 40.8% on catch and shoots. He shot higher, 41.6% when guarded, and then 39.6% when unguarded. If
Knueppel's not the best shooter in the draft, Trey Johnson is.
Absolutely.
He is incredible.
Yeah.
Like his actual shot diet, which is a word I kind of hate, but his shot profile is better than Knueppel's.
Yes.
Because he does so much off the dribble. He needs no space. Like, so here's what we have to explain also, because I'm not trying to compare Knueppel to Trey Johnson, because believe it or not, Jazz fans, you can like 2 players. Like, it doesn't have to be, well, I like Con, so I hate Trey, or I like Trey, so I hate Con. Like, I like both these players a lot. I like Con probably a little bit better.
Okay.
But Trey Johnson's shooting profile is insane. Like, if he had played at Duke, the screens he would have gotten from guys like Kamen Malawash and having guys who could actually pass him the ball in good spots, I think would have been better, and we can touch on that a little bit more in a minute. But, like, if he were next to Walker Kessler or somebody who just knew how to set a screen for him, and he could either get downhill or come off a screen shooting threes, he's money.
Yes.
Like, he's an absolute killer. He might be the best transition 3-point shooter I've seen in a long time. Like, when he's running up the floor and he just wants to pull up, he's deadly. So he's awesome. His 3-point shooting is legit. He's going to be a good 3-point shooter in the NBA. Like, I think he's going to be up at 38%, 40%, like really early in his career, and he's going to stay there as long as he's in the NBA. And he's a good enough shooter that it will keep him there. And then he's at 87% from the free throw line. So, like, everywhere he shoots, it goes in.
Yes.
It's really nice as long as he's shooting and not trying to make layups.
Yeah. I am far from a diehard college basketball fan. I'm not tuning into every single game and know a lot about all these players dating back, but I think he is the best transition shooter I've seen since Jimmer Fredette.
44% transition threes, has NBA range. He took 52 of them, which is more than 1 a game, almost 2 a game. Off the dribble 3-point shooting, 38%, which is like the hardest all-star shot that there is in the NBA. Yeah. Like, he gets to his shot off the dribble as well as anybody in this draft, like truly as well as anybody in the draft. Better than Dylan Harper, better than Cooper Flagg, certainly better than Knueppel, way better than VJ Edgecombe. Like, I don't know if there are a lot of guys who you're going to see, if you just watch his highlights on YouTube, like cross guys over, step back 3, and it goes in at a really high level. Like, he is going to bring late shot clock value, bailout value for whatever team drafts him, which, by the way, is a huge need for the Jazz.
Yeah.
Like, one of the reasons we've talked about Keontae George shooting 39% from the floor and 34% from the three-point line is he's tasked with taking all of those. Yes. And if it's not him, it's Jordan Clarkson, and you look like, why are those guys taking so many shots? Like, the Jazz don't have anyone who can create a shot on their own, especially in late clock situations where you're not like, well, I'm going to get to the rim here because I have 3 seconds or 5 seconds to do it. They just have to take these bailout shots, and it really hurts them.
Yeah.
If you just took them out of Keontae's diet and out of Jordan Clarkson's responsibilities and gave them to Trey Johnson, overall, your team's three-point shooting is going to go up. And those guys' three-point shooting probably goes up because they're not taking as many bad shots.
Yeah.
Because he's awesome at them. Like, he is going to bring instant value, which, by the way, like, late game scenarios, late clock scenarios, that's where games are decided.
Yes.
And Trey Johnson can absolutely dice you up in those spots. That's where he was best. And again, the SEC was the best basketball league in college basketball this year. He led it in scoring as a freshman. Mm-hmm. Like, his scoring and his shooting are truly the real deal. There's just not a lot of places where you're like, well, that's a weakness in his shooting profile. It's awesome.
Speaking of him projecting to be an off guard in the NBA, a lot of times he was tasked with being the main guy, ball in his hand a lot for Texas. He shot 54.8% on off-screen three-pointers.
Yeah.
That is,
again,
crazy.
You put him with Walker.
Yeah.
And he's gonna cook people.
Yes.
Like, his 3-point shooting is gonna be a very high level.
Now we can get into some of the areas of improvements. Something that I wrote, which I really like this, and I think that if he can work on it, he projects to be, we can talk about comparisons in a second, but he can improve in the flow of the offense, but I think he has tremendous personal flow and feel.
Yes, he does. Absolutely. He has a rhythm onto his own.
Yes.
That can be good and that can be bad, right? Like, I think Keontae George has a little bit of that. And there is some Keontae George in Trey Johnson's game. There absolutely is. Like, he shoots much better than Keontae George does, but like the ball handling, some of the question marks coming in, like, how much complementary playmaking can he add is a question mark. Now, credit Keontae, he's become a pretty good playmaker. Actually, like, his assist numbers have climbed. He's up almost 6 this year, found a way to do it off the bench. I don't know if Trey Johnson's going to get to 5 or 6, but you're right. He has a personal rhythm of his own, and he's really comfortable in it. I wrote, because I wrote his breakdown last week, you can go back and read it. Yes. I said it looks like he plays next to players and not with players.
Yep. He
looks like he plays in the offense, not with the offense. Like, he's not reading what's going on. He's not really paying attention to what other guys are doing. So he's kind of just waiting for the ball a lot. It just looks like Trey Johnson is waiting to get the ball so he can do his thing. Now, Texas was terrible, and this is what I wanted to get into. Playing at Duke versus playing at Texas was 2 totally different systems. Like, absolutely. Duke is running NBA stuff over and over and over and has NBA guys all around him. I couldn't tell you a single other player on Trey Johnson's Texas team that's going to do anything in the NBA, maybe Europe, but like, they're running no system. Mm-mm. The coach got fired right after the year ended. It was terrible. There's also a little bit that, like, I think Trey Johnson wanted to be in a system that allowed him to do that.
True. Right?
Like, he went to a place where they were just like, yeah, Trey, you do whatever you want. Like, we talk about the Rutgers guys and Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper doing whatever they want. Trey Johnson did the exact same thing at Texas, and they didn't win.
No.
Like, I do think they made the tournament, but barely. Right? Like, because they were a 500 team in the SEC.
Yeah.
It's like, he alone did not make them a good team. And in fact, I think there were times, which is why I tell you to watch games. Not you, but I mean fans watch games. Because there are times he goes off the court and it's like the team operates like better as a team than when Trey Johnson's on the court. Because sometimes he's like standing in the corner clapping for the ball, and I'm just like,
there was a lot of weird body movement, like disappointed after missing a shot.
The reason you can tell his arms are so long is because they're down by his knees half the game. Because he's so frustrated. His body language is so bad that he's just like running back up the court with his hands down. Mm-hmm. It's like, ugh. Okay, like, you're going to have you're going to a bad basketball team. If you're being drafted in the top 6, you're going to a bad basketball team. Like, I think the Wizards would make a lot of sense for him. He's going to have some terrible body language playing with some horrible Wizards teams that I think would be really disappointing. And you've got to clean that up if you're going to be a leader.
And this is the reason why I think he would fit a lot better with the Jazz instead of like a Hornets or a Washington, because I think that there is so much untapped potential there, but I think that, one, he needs to align with good coaching, but you need to have good coaching in the first place. Mm-hmm. because there is the body language, there is questionable decision-making stuff, there is a lack of effort sometimes on the defensive end, but all of those things are just like a mindset switch, more or less.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, you would hope so.
I would hope so.
One thing I do want to say is I think that he could benefit from a sort of Keontae George rookie season kind of thing, because I think that he is a capable passer and he could become a plus playmaker. He makes good reads a lot of the time, pick and roll, dumps, skips. I think there's potential there.
He is a strong passer. Like he has the ability to actually make the passes. Some guys aren't even strong enough to make some of these passes.
Yeah.
He is, and because he's so tall and has long arms, he can like do the two-handed overhead pass and really throw it across the court, which is valuable. I agree with you when he does get into the paint, which is rare.
Yeah.
He does make good dump off passes. It doesn't even have to be to like the pick and roll player. So it's not just like the obvious pocket pass. Sometimes it's guys cutting to the basket and he finds them for easy finishes. There is more playmaking there. And I would bet if he liked his teammates more or trusted them more, he would have found them.
Yeah.
So if that is Walker, if that's Lowry, if that's John Collins or whoever, I think he will become a better passer at the NBA level than he was and running an actual NBA system. I think will be good. But I do think most of his passes are escape passes. It's not really a thing we talk about a lot, but it's like he's not anticipating what the defense is doing and beating the defense. He's like, caught the ball, I'm going to shoot. Oh, the shot's not there. Okay, let me get to my next shot. Okay, that's not there. Oh, no, I'm double teamed. There's 6 seconds left. Let me jump and throw a pass.
Yeah.
He's good at that, but he's not like breaking down the defense with his passing, which scares me a little bit. So I don't think he offers like a lot of complimentary, like, run the offense stuff. But I would like to see him run more pick and roll. He might actually be pretty good at it.
And let's get into that a little bit, talk about decision-making, putting himself into tough situations. And then ultimately that all comes together with his finishing and not only lack of efficiency there, but lack of actually ever really doing it. He shot 51.4% at the rim, which is not very good. I wrote that he often settles for fadeaways and tough shots when he's cut off. Whether that be in the mid-range or down near the block area. Like you talked about, if he's not making a last second, I need to pass here, then he's throwing up a bad shot.
Yep. A lot of, and again, it's why I wouldn't even like, there are things on YouTube where it's like full game highlights, but they cut out all the misses. So it's just the makes. It's like, no, you got to go and watch the whole games. You got to go back and see like how often he's just like taking crap shots.
Yeah.
Like doesn't trust his teammates, gets to the mid-range and just kind of takes a bad shot or takes some really tough threes that don't matter. And then, man, you watch a lot of games. It's like, did he go to the free throw line once? Like, did he actually get there? And the problem is 5 different times this season, he failed to get to the free throw line at all. There were 22 games. He got there 4 or less. Like, for how many threes he takes, like he should draw a foul on a 3 a game.
Yeah.
And honestly, like he should be that level of dangerous as a 3-point shooter with how bad college defenders are that he just got to the free throw line by you're running off the screen and stop and pull up in front of you and draw a bunch of free throws that way. He had 4 games where he shot 10 or more, but yeah, man, like the free throw rate is terrible, which is that's easy points. Like that's how you got to score in the NBA. That's what the best scorers do. So he rarely ever got to the free throw line, which indicates some craft stuff. And then it's just the ability to get to the paint and then actually draw fouls and draw bodies in with you. And that's the other part we talked about is like athleticism not ever actually showing up on the floor. Like he feels all of 190 pounds, if not less.
Yes.
Like he just gets pushed off of his spot. He can't get to one of the reasons he can't get to the rim is because he can't go in a straight line because he can't go through people.
No.
So he's got to go around everybody. And oftentimes, like you're looking at the basket right in front of you and he's trying to turn the corner and the turn never happens. So he just gets forced further and further and further away from the basket, which is what Keontae George did his first year.
Yes.
And then he's throwing a lot of like tough angle bank shots, which is part of the reason why his field goal percentage isn't super high, despite the fact that he's an elite 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
And like my fear watching him is that like this is a guy who's going to be 41% from the floor, 38% from 3 his whole career. Like never going to get up to 45% from the floor and is going to realize like the best shot I take is a 3 every time. It never makes sense for me to go into the paint because I don't score at as high a rate and it's much harder. So I'm going to be low 40s, high 30s shooter, which is like where the Buddy Hield comps really come in, and I see a ton of it.
Yes.
Like he's better. He's a way better player as a freshman than Buddy Hield was at Oklahoma. Don't get me wrong, but like Buddy Hield was a 6 overall pick, elite 3-point shooter, still does that. But offensively, he's a one-trick pony.
Yeah. For my comparison, the same way that we talked about, like Ace Bailey could be Kevin Durant on the absolute high end, which is out of the picture now. We find out that he's 6'7".
Yeah.
I wrote James Harden, and I don't think he'll ever be the playmaker that James Harden is. Even if he ends up being the number one offensive guy on a team, I don't think he'll get more than 5-6 assists ever.
No, he's not going to be triple-double guy ever.
So I wrote that as like absolute high end, the same way like I said, for Ace KD. But more realistically, I have him as like a Tyler Hero, Norman Powell kind of guy.
I was thinking like Malik Monk without the playmaking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which like Malik Monk's a good player. Malik Monk, I think, won a title with the Lakers, or maybe he came to that team after and was like, he's a good six man. He's really good with the Kings right now. He's like your third best offensive player. But we haven't even talked about Trey's defense, which is like it's the worst.
It's really bad. And it kind of sucks because again, he's thin, so like you'd expect him to get pushed around a little bit, but unlike with VJ, who has that wingspan as well, who uses his athletic tools, and VJ isn't the biggest guy either. Trey just doesn't use his length. I feel like I didn't really see that at all.
He's not jumping passing lanes. He's never blocking shots. The leaping ability and the wingspan and the quick shuttle speed would be like, this dude's going to jump a passing lane and get a transition dunk a game. It's like never happens. He doesn't chase guys well. Like, he chases guys because it's his job, and like that's just part of your job as a guard is to chase guys around screens and make it hard and stay close. He doesn't stay close, so if you come off a screen, you've got 3 feet because he's that far behind you because he's not playing that hard. He gets lost in the corners. He doesn't close out well. His effort is low. He doesn't defensive rebound. He doesn't do multiple actions defensively. Like, he gets beat one-on-one all the time. Like, there are crazy offensive possessions. Step back, crossover, behind the back, dribbled into his three. Great, 3 points, awesome, impossible shot. Gives up a layup on the other end like he didn't even care. He's like, well, I did my job on the other end. Just scored offensively. And like, if you're looking at fit with the Jazz, it's like really tough because Keontae's already a terrible defensive player. Bryce is not a good defensive player. It's like, it's going to be really hard to buy. He's going to have to totally change who he is offensively. And like, some guys do, but like, it's kind of a myth that every player is a bad defensive player. Like, they're bad at the NBA because the NBA has so many tricks and the guys are so good. But like, you can tell the guys who are trying. You can tell the guys who care. Like, VJ cares. You can watch VJ play, and there's actually like some effort there. He's not elite, but he's going to get better. We just talked about Knueppel. Like, the physical tools aren't there. He really battles. Like, he's trying every single possession. Trey doesn't try. More often than not, Trey Johnson's just simply not trying. And there's some early games in the season that I watched where it's like, okay, he's given some effort. By the end of the year, it was gone. He just did not care anymore. And it was just like, it was kind of sick. It kind of made you sick to watch. It's like, dude, you're too good. You're too talented. You have too many physical tools to be this awful on the defensive end, but he's awful.
From a front office / coaching standpoint, I think Trey could benefit from being with a team like the Jazz. But from a actual roster construction, I think he fits in Washington really well. Because like you said, the Jazz are a terrible defensive team, and he does not add anything on that end. And the Wizards were the second worst team in the league. Of course, they don't have a good defense, but they have guys like Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, who project to be good defenders. So that could cover that up a little bit for him. I think that Trey is tremendously gifted offensively, and I think that he even has a lot of room to grow there, especially in the playmaking aspect, to point one area out. But I just don't know how well he would fit with the Jazz.
He's going to score in the NBA.
Yes.
No question about it. He's going to increase your three-point shooting. No question about it. He's going to give you some bailout shooting, which is really valuable. I'm curious how much winning he's going to do. In all honesty, I'm just curious if he's going to be a winning player. And that might just be purely situational, and that's why the draft is so hard. He gets on the right team where he buys in, and everyone's on board, and he starts trying a little bit harder defensively, and the tools come together, and the spacing helps him, and actually his athleticism allows him to get to the rim. It's awesome. It's great. But like, there's a real chance if he goes to the wrong team and never comes together, and he's just a three-point shooter, and who cares? He's just a losing player. Because he likes shooting his threes, and he doesn't like doing anything else. So that's the tricky part about him. And I actually think like the scoring is better than anything Knueppel does, I guess, because it's he's doing it at a truly elite level. I think people are going to think it's the opposite. I think it's far more likely that Trey Johnson becomes a specialist in the NBA than Knueppel.
Wow. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I see what you mean.
People are going to be like, well, Con's just going to be kind of your typical like white guy shooter. You know what I mean? That we see across the NBA. I don't think that's the case. Like, I think his passing is too good on top of his elite shooting, and his playmaking out of the pick and roll is too good. His ability to beat guys off the dribble just to get to the nail and make decisions from there is too good. Like, I think there's a real chance he's a better ball in hand overall offensive player than what Trey Johnson is.
Question for you going back to Con. Do you see a world when he gets to the NBA where maybe he cuts down 10, 15 pounds and then tries to improve on that athleticism?
It's going to be a little bit. So the way I described him on Twitter is Bryce Sensabaugh with like an Intel processor. Like, he's got that body. He's actually got a better body than Bryce did coming out of college. Now, Bryce had torn up his knee in high school and then broke his foot or whatever his knee injury was coming out of Ohio State again, whatever his stuff he was dealing with. It's kind of hurt his body. Khan's got a better body than that. Like, it's not as soft. He's just going to get ripped. Like, I think there's a chance he looks like Matt Harpring. Not to just compare him to white Jazz players over and over, but like Matt was like a bowling ball, really strong, got in, like threw his weight around. That's what Khan's going to do. Okay. I don't think there's questions that he's going to be like a soft body guy.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on either of these guys?
No, I think that's a pretty good breakdown of both of them. And you know what? At 5, I totally get both of them. I really do. I like the scoring upside with Trey Johnson of like a guy who's going to come in, could be a number 2 scorer on a really good team. Like, I don't think he's going to be a number 1 guy, but you pair him with whoever you get next year in the draft. It's like, okay, I get it. Yeah. He's like an elite shooter, great secondary scorer, doesn't need a lot of help to create shots, but when he does get the screens, he's awesome. But like, I see Khan as just like the guy who like pushes the team in a direction. Like, he gets the train moving. Like, that's really how I think Khan is. Like, he's the guy who finally the Rockets have started on the rocket ship, and it's like starting to take off to go into the outer space. I think Khan's the guy that does that more than Trey does.
All right, time for a break.
Let's take a break. That was a long first segment, and then we'll get your mailbag questions next. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, it is the second half of the show, so let's get to the mailbag. As always, find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops, at Holt Sports, or you can also find us on Blue Sky at those same handles, where we send out the prompt asking for your questions. Where we start?
I'm going to jump ahead of everybody and ask 2 questions that I have for you. Okay.
And then we also have a DM question, which we'll get
to. So I just, unrelated to anything, I just saw a YouTube video on this in the past week. I wanted to get your opinion. Do you think Rudy Gobert will have his jersey retired in Utah one day?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he should.
Yeah,
I'm in the camp that like Rudy's probably the 4th best player in Jazz history. I think it's Carl. I think it's John. It's probably Adrian Dantley, and then it's probably Rudy. Like, Rudy did more for winning than Dantley or Pete Maravich.
Yes,
and Rudy's a better player than Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, when he was in Utah at least. Donovan was great. Donovan meant a lot to the team. I mean, because Donovan's 5. Yeah. If Rudy's 4, Donovan's 5 or 6. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I think Rudy's truly like resume wise, all NBA appearances. 3 defensive player of the years in Salt Lake. Yeah, Rudy rules. Yeah, they should. Honestly, they should. Yeah. The question is, like, if he wins a title in Minnesota, he probably is remembered as a Timberwolf and not a Jazz man.
True.
Which Jazz fans would hurt to lose.
Yeah. All right, and the next one, we talked about Trey Johnson being a big riser in the draft combine, like a lot of impressive stuff there. Another person who has done a lot of impressive stuff is Igor Demin. Yep. I think before he was sort of seen by a lot of people. He's been all over the place, but I feel like a consensus was sort of like 15 to 20-ish for him. Do you see him being a lottery pick now?
I think there's a chance he's in the lottery for sure. The weird part is there's a lot of these really flawed guards in the lottery. So, like, Dylan Harper's going to go 2. VJ's going to go top 5, top 6. Trey Johnson, Knueppel are going to go top 8. Then it's like Jeremiah Fears is probably the front runner, but like I think there's some opportunities where Jeremiah Fears like goes into workouts and they're like, oh, he's so small. Yeah. And oh, he had a bad shooting day. And oh, he doesn't play any defense. It's like, okay. But we're still going to take him. Like, so that if that team passes on, maybe they take Yegor. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or maybe they take him and then Yegor falls and it's like, okay, well then who's taking the next point guard? Like that's the question where these guys just are going to slip. Yeah. You know, some point guard is going to slip. And there's the kid that was at Florida who was on their championship team. Yeah. Like there's a guy who you could just be like, I don't know if I trust Yegor yet. Yeah. Like, it's so easy to fall in love with him. And what was 6'8.5" or whatever his measurement was very cool. And apparently his workouts have been good and he's been shooting the ball. But it's like, and then you go watch a BYU game from the middle of the season. You're like, oh, they took him off the floor in the second half because he couldn't handle college pressure. Yeah. Like, he couldn't handle bringing the ball up the court. Not he wasn't shooting well. It was like, oh, he couldn't be on the court. So that's my question with Yegor. I like Yegor. Like, if he was there at 21 and the Jazz drafted him, I would totally understand. Like, that's a good swing at 21. Yeah. Like, I would never touch him at 5. No. You know what I mean? No. And then if I was a late... You know what? Like, if the Thunder wanted to draft him at 15... That's the one that would like send a nerves down everyone's spine, like a shock down everyone's spine in the NBA. Like, did they get another one? Did they do it again? Like, did they just get another great pick, another guy who's going to step in, who's just going to like be in their system, and you don't have to play him at point guard necessarily. You can play him at the 2 or the 3, and he's just sort of connective piece who maybe hits open, catch and shoot threes. I think that's really valuable. If you draft him thinking like it's our star, that's going to be James Harden. I think you're going to be in trouble.
No, yeah, I don't see him going into the top 10. I think the first pick that even could make a tiny bit of sense is like Portland at 11, but even that I think is like you're swinging really high if you're Portland on that. But no, I think that he's clearly a project pick, but like you said, he's been, and he's been rising in the draft combine. So I do think his stock has improved, but I just don't know if it's into the lottery improved.
We'll see if the Wizards are like, we liked Danny Avdia.
Yeah.
What if we get a guy in him at 6? It's like, well, you just traded Danny Avdia. Anyways, no, he's interesting. I like Yegor for sure.
All right, now DM question from USU the Right Blue. How much should wingspan matter to the Jazz in the combine along with other measurables?
Jazz are pretty long. You know, conceivably Taylor, Cody, and Walker are part of the future. Maybe none of them are. Maybe one of them is. Maybe two of them are.
Yeah.
Who knows? But there's some pretty good length there, which I think is valuable. So it wouldn't be at the top of my board, but length is good. Length is really valuable. I think being big is important. Whereas, we talked about Con Knueppel having short arms. He's like a big player, and he feels big on the court.
Sure.
He bullies people. He pushes guys around. He doesn't get overwhelmed by the physicality of college basketball in any sense. He's not bothered by it. So I think that's valuable. So, he doesn't have good wingspan, but he's still a good player.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would bother me as much. I wouldn't just go for the long guy exclusively. Jazz just need so much talent. It's their big problem. Just need as much talent as possible.
All right, now moving over to the extra plies. I'm going to combine a few and then combine it with the weekly news that we teased a little bit earlier. Holly Hardy asks, is there any word on if the Jazz are trying to move up from 5 or 21? And then Film Jackson asked, the odds of us drafting 4 players as opposed to trading all 4 for Ace Bailey. A rumor came out, ESPN sources, that Philadelphia was looking to package Paul George and the 3rd pick to get one of Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen.
I don't think that rumor makes any sense to me.
Okay.
If you're trading for Paul George, I think you're still trying to win.
Yeah.
Right? He's got 3 or 4 years left on his deal. He's not old enough that, or he's not an expiring contract to the point where you're just well, you're going to take him on for a year, or you're going to buy him out, or you're going to try and trade him in a season. You can still try and trade him, obviously, but he's 35. He's on a max deal, and he's got 3+ years left on his deal.
Yeah.
So, I think you're expecting him to be a part of your team. And there's an argument that Paul George is probably still a better player today than Lauri Markkanen is.
Yeah.
So, if you could get the 3rd pick and Paul George, you probably win the trade today. But I don't know, a year from now, Paul George can't ever stay healthy.
True.
He's never healthy. He's just turned 35, so he doesn't match your timeline in the slightest. My article last week in the mailbag was Lauri doesn't fit the timeline anymore. He's 28, and you've got a group of 20-year-olds that consistently stay 20, and you're drafting another 19-year-old next year, and Lauri's going to be 29. And before they're good, Lauri's going to be 31. That same timeline, Paul George is going to be 38 by the time that whoever you draft this year is ready to actually be a good player, or Cody's ready to be a good player, or Bryce Sensabaugh, or Taylor Hendricks. It doesn't make any sense to me to get older. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think the Jazz, like I said, I would go younger overall.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, Paul George is a Hall of Famer. He was an All-Star each of the last 2 years before this season. So I get that aspect of it. But, and you know what? I don't think the pick at 3 is that much different than the pick at 5. If you tell me that Trey Johnson or Con Knueppel has a better career than Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe, I'm oh yeah, that makes total sense. Mm-hmm. It's not that draft. If it was top 2, I get it. If you thought Dylan Harper was going to be a future 5 or 6-time All-Star at point guard. But that's just not what's on the board at 3.
Yeah. I think I'm going to disagree with parts, but I agree with you on some parts. I agree with you. I think that even the Lauri Markkanen timeline is a little bit off. And I do think, in theory, the best route for the Jazz, which I had written about last week, is going full young. I think that is a real possibility for them. So I think that if you do the Paul George trade, you are looking to move on from him, or maybe he's just there as a vet. And I know that if you're spending that much for a vet who may average 18 points next year, something like that. Yeah. Clearly one of the worst contracts in the NBA. But a few weeks ago we talked about with the top 4 guys, you have that true all-star potential. And I think that does still fall off around 5.
Okay. Not
saying that Trey Johnson or Con Knueppel can never be an all-star. I think that they can. But we're talking about 3, 4, 5+ time All-Stars. I think that Ace Bailey has that potential.
He does.
And I think that the Jazz are in a position, and this is something you talked about last week, where you think you should stop taking the high upside swings, take the guarantee pick in the draft and switch that. I think that a high upside pick could still benefit them here, which is why I don't mind going for Ace Bailey if you can.
If Ace Bailey... I agree. And I'm just raw draft board. I don't do draft boards or anything like that, but Cooper would be 1. Dylan Harper would probably be 2. Ace Bailey probably still 3 over Con Knueppel and VJ Edgecombe and Trey Johnson. But not at the sacrifice of all the flexibility I have, and Paul George just kills so much of your flexibility that you have as a roster.
Yeah.
Because you're like, he's not gonna come in all that focused. He's gonna come in more focused on his podcast than he is gonna be on being a member of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see that at all, to be honest with you. I don't get it. Unless you felt like there was a secondary move to get another win now player next to him, and then the third overall pick was going to, be Ace Bailey, who's going to be ready to play in year 2. I just don't know. Or if you thought like, hey, my sources are telling me that the Spurs are going to take Dylan Harper 2, or are going to take Ace Bailey 2, and then Dylan Harper's going to fall at 3, and then you've got Dylan Harper and Paul George and another player who's ready to step in and help you win right away. Maybe that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you had a Giannis deal also with Paul George, I really get it. I just don't get adding a 35-year-old to this roster.
Yes.
I just really don't. And to move up from 5 to 3 and also lose an all-star who's younger in Lauri Markkanen going the other direction, I just don't get it at all.
Yeah. Let me clarify. If it's just Paul George and the third pick for Lauri Markkanen, I hate that. I think that I agree with you. I think it does not make a lot of sense, because even fast forwarding to the trade deadline or even before the season, I think you can get a better straight up package for Lauri Markkanen with future assets, win now players, whatever. And here's the thing. I think that the Suns would take Paul George in the third pick and run to the bank for Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No question about it. Yeah. They would probably just take Paul George straight up.
Yeah.
In all honesty.
Yeah. So I think that it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Jazz. If you're getting, I don't think the Sixers would give up Jared McCain, but if you're getting even like Quentin Grimes, who's 25 years old in that in that trade, I think it makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I think that you can get a lot better for Lauri Markkanen. But I also think that if you can trade up to the third pick,
there's interest there.
Yeah.
I would think, like, honestly, could you do 5? And again, this is like 76ers fans would certainly say no, but it would be like, I would offer like 5 and John Collins and Colin Sexton and KJ Martin, even though they just traded KJ Martin.
Yeah.
And 5 for Paul George and 3, and just be like, we're getting you out of this contract. And that's the value for you.
Yeah,
and I know you're going to scoff that you're giving up the best player and the best pick, but like, this is a terrible contract and you've got to get out of it if you want to have any flexibility. And you guys lucked into the third pick. You're going to get a guy in Trey Johnson who steps in and can play. But like, then all of a sudden Trey Johnson doesn't make sense to a team that doesn't have Paul George on it. Like, that's the problem. I just don't see the pieces connecting. I just like, you're just using the 2 of the wrong puzzle pieces. I just don't really see it very well.
I would imagine they take Con at 5 though.
Yeah, they might take. But here's the thing: if I'm the 76ers, I'm just taking them at 3.
Yeah,
like that's not a reach. I promise you. Like, I know we talked about the top 4, and I agree. I think there's still the odds-on favorite, or the top 4 are going to be Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe. We said 30% last week. Like, it might be 50% that VJ Edgecombe or Ace Bailey's on the board at 5.
Yeah,
I think there's a really high chance that Trey Johnson's shooting and workouts, or Con Knueppel's like readiness to play, is going to jump and put him up into 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are really good players. There's enough questions about Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe that one of them could be on the board at 5, very realistically. So that's just how I view the draft. I don't think the gap between 3 and 5 is that big, so I wouldn't do this trade.
I like the second trade you said a lot more. But I think that if you're giving up a younger All-Star for a 7-year older All-Star when the younger one still doesn't even really fit your timeline, I don't think it makes sense. But I think that it might be worth it if the Jazz can figure it out to get up into that top 3-4 range.
Yep. And honestly, you know what I would do? I would just wait till draft night if that's what they were pushing, because I get the sense if that's the case that they just want to move back to 5 and try and get another asset. And I would just say 5 and 21. You get an extra pick.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You're getting the same play. You want to take Trey Johnson or you want to take Con Knueppel, and you're scared to tell your fan base you took him at 3.
Yeah.
So let me get you the 21st pick also, and you can take whoever you want. But you wanted to pick 5 because you wanted to feel like you were getting a better asset value because you don't believe in Ace Bailey. And good, you avoided him. You got an extra asset.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll even give you the 2 second-round picks as well. Like, congrats, you got 4 picks for 1 pick, and you moved down 2 spots. And you still got the guy you wanted. Like, that's a win for you. Yeah. But the Jazz feel like they want to take a star swing for Ace Bailey. That's honestly like way more valuable if I were a Jazz fan or front office member. Otherwise, I just hold on to 5.
Yeah. All right, next up.
And then trade Lowry elsewhere for another top 10 pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how I would approach it. Yeah. Or I would just say, Lowry for 3 and whatever your other bad contracts are that you're trying to get off of. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, there, you get Lowry, and you still have Paul George. So now you have a big 3 or big 4 of Tyrese Maxey, Paul George. You probably just can't get the money to work because Philly's, close to the tax or over the tax. But you're taking back whatever bad contracts they have. Anyways.
Next up, Trevor Webb. Speaking of, why doesn't anyone focus on Ace Bailey's defensive numbers? In an NBA where two-way players are almost a requirement to make deep playoff runs, it feels like his two-way play is more of a surety than VJ's offense or Trey Johnson's defense.
Well, it's the problem with just looking at numbers. Mm-hmm. His stocks numbers, as they say, stocks and blocks, or steals and blocks are good. They're up almost 3, right?
Yeah.
He's over a block a game. He's over a steal a game. 1.2 this is per 40 minutes. Sorry, let me just pull up his actual stats. It's 1 steal a game, 1.3 blocks. It's good. I actually like those numbers.
Yeah.
And look, when he's on the ball, like he's focused. He gets into a stance. We've said that. I think we did it 2 weeks ago. We did the Rutgers guys, or maybe 3 weeks ago now. I like that. I do like his weak side shot blocking. Like he rotates over. I think that's helpful. But we talked about the controller unplugging or turning off. Like he gets burned off the ball all the time. Yeah. Like constantly. If he's not being tasked with specifically defending the ball, he's not paying attention. Yeah. So that's the issue with him. Like if his man is creeped down low, or he's just decided I'm not going to defend the corner 3-point shot and I'm just going to be a weak side defender in the paint, he comes over and he makes some plays, but like he's not a good defender. Yeah. He's got some two-way potential. Like I don't think he's ever going to turn into Jaden McDaniels, but like the way Jaden didn't care about playing basketball at Washington his first year. Now they also played a zone, so it's like a totally different thing. Washington was a zone team at that time exclusively. So it's hard to tell exactly how good he could be defensively, and maybe Ace would look better in his zone. Actually, you just kind of task him with sitting in the corner, and that's your spot. Don't worry about anything else. But I actually think that makes him less valuable, because he is valuable, like doubling up on the ball, getting the weak side block shots, or being able to jump some of those passing lanes, which is where these numbers come from. He's got to buy in on the 3-point side, and if he does, he's got awesome two-way potential. He really does.
Next up from Nick T.
But he's a bad defensive player right now, despite the steals and rebounds, or steals and blocks numbers.
Nick T, is the NBA trending toward a ball-dominant guard, or is that just a fluke in this playoffs? If so, do the Jazz prioritize one in the draft, or just take best player available?
I mean, I guess you look at the final 4 teams right now in the playoffs, and it's like Shea, who's Super Bowl dominant, and Ant, who's Super Bowl dominant, and Jalen Brunson, who's Super Bowl dominant, Tyrese Halliburton, who might be the most ball dominant of all of them. Yeah. So like that's always been a strength, though. You know what I mean? Like James Harden won an MVP 5 years ago doing that same thing, and Russ won an MVP doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just like offensive engine guys. Yeah, it is what it is. Guys who can run your entire offense by themselves. Luka is that guy. But you know what? LeBron was actually that guy. He just happened to be 6'9" and 280 pounds, or 260, whatever he was.
Jokic.
Lied about him being 230. Yeah, right.
7 foot.
Yeah, but he's an offensive engine, right? Like you can just run everything through him. Kevin Durant in his prime was the same way. Giannis, you just run everything through him. So it is about having your like singular focus offensive player. It's just those guys grew up in high school and junior high always having the ball in their hands. Like what position did you play in high school?
Like a shooting guard.
Okay, so but you've had the ball. Yeah, you had the ball some, but like. You know, these guys had the ball their whole lives. Yeah. Like most, whatever the forward was on your team at whatever Rainier High School or wherever you played, the center, like he probably just never touched the ball, right? No, like you ran some plays for him and he'd get the ball with his back to the basket.
Little drop step.
I've got to move. Go into the hook shot. It's like he does it every time. Yeah. But they just like never touched the ball because they weren't good enough. Yeah. But like, you know, Cam Boozer touched the ball every time up the floor because he's an awesome high school player. Mm-hmm. Cooper Flagg was a forward but touched the ball every trip up the floor even though he was more of a defensive player. The reason the guards do it is because they've done it their whole lives. Yes. You know? So it's not just because guards do it. It's because that's what they've always done. It's not because it's like you have to get a guard. It's not position specific. It's just more frequently going to be that position because those guys have always had the ball. Yeah. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's specifically just reinforcing what you said. The guard aspect is just like someone who is smart enough and capable enough to run the whole offense through them.
Now, that is why Dylan Harper's going to go number 2 overall. Yeah. And that's what people hope for VJ Edgecombe. Or Trey Johnson, or Con Knueppel, is like they're going to have more of that on-ball juice because that is the most valuable thing you can have in the NBA because those guys lead an offense and then, I mean, that's why the Knicks are where they are. Yeah. That's why they changed once they got Jalen Brunson. That's why Indy trading for Tyrese Halliburton for Domantas Sabonis was a great move for them. Like, and Domantas Sabonis has got a little bit of an offensive engine himself, don't get me wrong, but Tyrese is a better player. Yeah. So, no, I mean, there's value to it. I just don't know if that guy's on the board at 5. True. And I don't think that's who Trey Johnson or Con Knueppel is. Yeah. Or VJ, for that matter.
Next up from Nick T. Or sorry, Dave the Maintenance Man. How in the world did the Jazz make a trade to get better and not to acquire more picks or low-end talent?
I mean, we talked about like the Jalen Green for Lowry type of thing. Like that trade's out there. Yeah. Oh, I'm actually the Jazz absolutely, if they wanted to, but again, that's the big question. Like how much talent are they wanting to take on? You got to avoid 33 wins. Like I think, again, the Jazz could probably feel comfortable adding 5 to 8 wins to their schedule, it not being so brutal to watch the team night in and night out. Be a little bit more competitive. I don't think fans are going to be worried about every win being a curse next season like they were this year because you tanked and you still fell to 5. So I think there might be a little more leeway there. But, like, you know, you should be able to get better by trading John Collins and, you know, expiring contracts, Colin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson or whoever, and get, like, some younger players that, like, quote-unquote, make you more talented. Now, look, John Collins can help you win when he's on the floor. He was just only playing 50 games because you didn't want him to win too much. But you can get some younger guys who can play every night that, like, have some upside. Yeah. So I actually think that's not a terribly difficult scenario for the Jazz.
Going back to the Markkanen rumors and also tying in with this, if Giannis is not a Milwaukee Buck next year, I think he's going to the Southwest Division, even though it was reported he wants to stay in the East. But talked about those Texas teams. I think that someone in the Southwest Division is also calling about Markkanen, if not multiple teams. I think that the Grizzlies would be interested. I think that Houston would be interested, even San Antonio maybe.
We've got a question about this.
Oh, we do?
Yeah,
okay.
let's talk about that a little because I think it gets interesting.
Yeah. Mike Keller.
Yeah.
Would the trade return for Lowry this summer be better, the same, or worse than last summer?
So, yeah, picking up where that question left off, or where the last question left off.
Yeah.
So, the obvious theory is that, like, well, once Giannis hits the board, and once KD hits the board, Lowry is down to third.
Yeah.
And maybe Paul George is even out there. So Lowry might be like the fourth best player available, and we don't even know who else is going to secretly become available. Luka became available. So we don't know who's actually going to be out there. You know, the truth is, like, I would bet the Timberwolves might even still, like, try and trade Julius Randle. I know that sounds crazy because he had this awesome run, but, like, that's when you trade him, right? He's going to opt into his contract this offseason probably, even though he's been awesome. Maybe he opts out now and goes and gets money elsewhere. Like, it gets pretty precarious for them. But he's got a player option, so he probably opts in. And you're like, man, we can sell him for 2 draft picks right now, like 2 firsts, and we don't have anything going forward, and we get out of salary cap hell, and you get something back from him. Like, he gets pretty interesting for a team.
Yes.
Or maybe they just hold on to him because he's been good and they have a chance to win a title. But regardless, like, a mystery player could also hit the trade block, and that pushes Lowry down. So Lowry's value is lower, and that hurts. Mm-hmm. But there's also the situation, which is very, very possible, which is that Giannis doesn't find a better offer anywhere else and says, "Hey, Milwaukee, I'd rather stay with you. Let's see what we can piece around because the East is going to be wide open next year. So I'm going to stick around." And then Kevin Durant is off the board, and some team says, "Man, we thought we were going to get Giannis, and we didn't get KD either." But we were already grew comfortable with the idea of paying X price to get an increase. We already were putting Jalen Green and Reed Shepherd in trade talks, plus our top 10 pick. Well, now the Jazz don't even want the top 10 pick. So we're actually getting a top 10 pick and Lowry. That's actually better than trading for Kevin Durant or whatever.
Yes.
And they talk themselves into, like, well, the whole value, the whole trade market's up. The value's up. The prices people are paying get set high because the price was so high for Giannis or so high for Paul George or for Kevin Durant that, like, we're actually comfortable paying a high price this summer where nobody was paying high prices last year, which is why the Jazz just held on to Lowry in the first place. Like, no one met the asking price. Now people have loosened up their wallets a little bit because money's being spent, and you get a little bit more for Lowry than actually you thought you were going to get.
Yeah.
So I think there is, like, that scenario where that does happen.
Yeah, exactly what I was saying. If they don't get the team, if they're the team that doesn't get it, or if Giannis just stays, KD's not going to stay, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The team that doesn't, they're going to probably be more likely to call up the Jazz and see what's going on with Larry Markkanen.
But yeah, someone, you know, has a money is burning a hole in their pocket.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make a trade, they wanted to get better, and now Lowry's there, and they say, well, okay, we're just going to do it. We're going to pay the price. That's fine.
G-Dub asks, is there a world where the Jazz trade Keontae and re-sign Sexton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're probably unrelated to each other.
Yes.
You know, in all honesty. That doesn't mean they're completely unrelated to each other, but I don't think they necessarily have to be together. Like, if you re-signed Colin and just said you want to see if Keontae gets better in year 3, full-time bench player, that's totally fair. That's totally fine. In fact, maybe that's your bench backcourt next year if you draft a Trey Johnson or a Con Knueppel. Or you just keep Colin and he, you know, doesn't sign an extension. But, like, you know, or you just trade, you might trade both of them. Like, easily you could trade both of them. You can trade both of them in the same trade. You can trade them in different trades. I don't know if the Jazz are at a point where they're like, well, we can't do this because we have this, other than maybe like a Walker Kessler thing.
Yeah.
Of, like, we're not going to draft Common Malawash because we have Walker. If you're Danny Ainge talking, you know, maybe that's it. But like, I don't think a lot of it has to do with, like, well, we have this, so we're going to do this. I don't see that from the Jazz.
All right, last question from Chilipowski. If Con is the safest pick at 5 and you're confident he becomes at least Husky Hornacek, make a case for picking the other higher risk guys that could be on the board.
If you felt like scoring was your big weakness, I could see Trey Johnson or Race Bailey.
Yeah.
If you felt like you wanted a true offensive engine, like we just talked about, like a guy who's going to have a huge usage rate and be able to do a lot, Jeremiah Fears makes sense. Like, we will have to do a whole episode on Jeremiah Fears. Yes. The 18-year-old guard from Oklahoma who reclassified. And for an 18-year-old had a historic year.
Yeah.
For a college freshman had a very good but average year.
Yeah.
You know, good, top 10 pick, but not like, got to take this guy at 2. But as an 18-year-old who should be a high school senior right now is pretty impressive. Yeah. But didn't have great measurables and doesn't play defense and can't shoot and all these questions like that. So you could take Jeremiah Fears if that was your bet. Like, that's the high upside spot for sure. Yeah. And, like, there's a chance he turns into an all-star guard. Like, Jeremiah Fears has all-star upside.
Absolutely.
Trey Johnson has all-star upside. Like, averages 23 points a game. He's one of the best shooters. His assists and rebounds are at 4 each. And you're just like, yeah, that guy's really good. It's just a really good basketball player who scores a lot and carries a huge load every night. I think that's there. Whereas I think Knueppel is like probably going to be like 17 to 18 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists, which again, Hornacek did average 25 and 5 in Philly or Phoenix, whatever year he did it, and made an all-star team. So if you want to call him Husky Hornacek, I get that. But there's some all-star potential there still for Con. The way Con makes an all-star team though is like the Jazz have the best record in the league and he's the 3rd best player and 3 guys go. The way Mike Conley made it.
Yes.
His lone all-star appearance. He's that type of guy. He's also, the year Jordan Clarkson won 6th man of the year, a lot of people think that Joe Ingles was actually the Jazz's best 6th man and should have won 6th man of the year. Like, Knueppel has that role as well. Mm-hmm. He could easily be that player. So.
It's interesting, though, because even the Josh front office said, there's up to 8 players that we're looking at with this pick. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the reality. I think that each player will bring you a different thing. And we can try to guess what the Jazz are looking for the most, but I feel like we won't really know until as it gets closer, if not the day of.
The nice thing, and one of the reasons I like Knueppel a lot, is I don't care if you draft Darren Peterson next year. I don't care if you draft Cam Boozer next year. I don't care if you draft A.J. DeBonsa next year. Like I said, if you've ever played video games of any kind or whatever where you're like, well, I can add one asset here or I can bring in this one thing that makes me like a really strong shooter or whatever it is, or I can add this one trait that improves everything I do a little bit. It's like Knueppel's the guy who makes everything better a little bit.
Yeah.
As opposed to he makes me elite here. Now, the thing is he's an elite shooter. So actually he does give you some of these things, but he makes you better everywhere. He's kind of grows the whole base. He grows the whole fortress. It's all a little bit stronger as opposed to saying we need stronger weapons or we need stronger defense or whatever. He just does everything better. So your whole unit gets better. So next year, you're going to love that you drafted Knueppel this year, 12 months from now, when you do have that top 3 pick.
Yes.
And you're not trying to figure out what he is or if he is. You're just trying to be like, oh man, he's going to be awesome next to A.J. DeBonsa, Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson, Ament, all these other kids that are coming in next year, which is supposed to be a much better draft class, even better than this year. And I think this is a pretty good class. You're going to love the way Con fits next to them. And I think there are scenarios where you're like, oh, if Darren Peterson's a terrible defender in the backcourt, I just haven't watched Darren Peterson at all. But if you are going to draft him and he can't defend at all, it's like, are you going to pair him and Trey Johnson as your future backcourt? And they just can't play defense ever.
Yeah.
That's what you're committed to. That's dangerous. There are some dangers there, but I'm a little less worried about with Knueppel.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the Jazz front office, it's so hard to say because I feel like I would want to say yes, and not only just the Jazz, but every team. Do you think they're already basing their pick this year a little bit on who they think they could get next year?
Probably yes.
Okay.
And from a strategy standpoint, not Cam Boozer would fit really well next to Common Malawash.
Yes.
Not that specific, but from hey, if we're going to be here next year and we're then at that point, we want to be done tanking, I think, maybe you go safer pick this year with knowing you're taking another high upside swing next year. The hard part about, let's say you take Ace Bailey and he misses. You've gone back-to-back years with top 10 picks and really 3 years in a row because Taylor Hendricks didn't play sophomore year at all, where you missed on top 10 picks. 3 years in a row, and that will kill you.
True.
You don't get out of that.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. You talk about OKC tanking, and there's this kind of thought that they tank forever. They've had 2 top 10 picks on the roster. They got Chet Holmgren, and they got Josh Giddey, and they traded Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, and he steps in. He's a championship piece.
Yeah.
Right? They had 2 top 10 selections. That's it. Everyone else has been 12, 14, 17, whatever. They have just not been loaded up with these horrible picks over and over and had to hit over and over in those spots. In fact, it's amazing how many first-round picks they've traded on draft night, Derek Lively, et cetera, to move back and get guys. So, they drafted Alperen Sengun and traded him, which was a whiff. That was a mistake. But, you miss on your top 10 picks, and it sets you back really far. So, in that sense of, don't whiff on a guy. Because here's the thing. Knueppel steps in, and let's say he's a Josh Giddey quality player.
Yeah.
Well, the Thunder said he's a good player. He doesn't fit what we do. But he still has trade value. Okay, you trade him and you get a good piece back that helps you get to that next level. Alex Caruso got them to the next level. That's the value of a Knueppel versus, we took a real swing at it and missed, and now there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
There's a chance that if Cody Williams isn't good enough to be an NBA player, you just never get anything back for him. That's a real tough loss to, spend the second half of the season tanking to get a player who doesn't bring any value to your team.
True.
All right, I think that does it.
Yes.
All right, thanks everyone for listening. Longer episode today. I'm going to be out next week. I'm on vacation. I think there's a likelihood or a chance. What do you want to say?
A chance.
A chance that Chandler records next week. If not, we will definitely be back 2 weeks from now with more draft breakdowns and more Jazz notes. So stick around. Appreciate everyone who has listened, subscribed. Find us on YouTube now to watch the video live, or not live, but see our faces at the very least. And we'll be back with you again soon.